Welcome to episode 7 of the Passion Lab. Today I have the opportunity to talk with Sam Johnson, also known as the BYU Marathon Guy. Sam, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Sam, as we get started, I wanted to read a quote to you and just see what it means to you. It says, "The miracle isn't that I finished, the miracle is that I had the courage to start." On the journey you've been on so far, what does that mean to you?
I don't know. It's kind of an interesting way to look at things, I guess. I think that I definitely can identify with that because I never really doubted that I could do this. It was just I had to get to the point where I would be willing to put myself out there and start doing it and start recording myself and posting it online. So I think that's what made the difference, I guess. Because I've always been interested in doing physical challenges like that. I've always been a distance runner. So I think that the difference really came in my life when I was willing to start putting myself out there.
That's awesome. In preparation for this, I just kind of went on your Strava and was thinking around so in between when you did the MARB and the LSB, if I counted it correctly, I think you did 7 marathons.
Yeah, in total.
In 35 days. And then you did 1 unicycling marathon. And then you biked over 600 miles. That's something that I'm not sure anyone in the world could say they've done. I think that's a pretty unique feat that you've accomplished. To go back beyond you doing these marathons and you doing these big challenges on the internet, where does your love for endurance sports come from?
I've always been interested in endurance sports. I come from a family of people who run and people who exercise, and we always did long hikes and backpacking trips growing up and stuff. I ran my first half marathon when I was 12 years old. My mom and I signed up for one, and she had already done marathons in the past, but I wanted to run with her. So we trained together and ran a half marathon, and since then I've always been interested in long distance running. I've done, I don't even know how many half marathons, probably around 50 in my life. And I've done 12 marathons now at this point. But I think, the reason I've always loved it so much is because, I love exploring my own potential. I love chasing my own limits. I love, learning what I'm capable of doing and expanding my own capabilities.
Yeah. Your mom told me when you were doing the LSB marathon, there was obviously a huge group of people there, tons of people out to support. And so your mom was there. And so I sat down and talked to her for maybe 15 to 20 minutes. And she told me that when you're a baby, you were I think out of all of your siblings, the first to walk, the earliest in age. I think she said something around 9 months or something crazy like that.
Yeah. That's what I'm told anyway.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to remember when you're a baby, but I feel like just from that anecdote, it seems like you've always been on the move. You've always been not content with sitting still.
Yeah, I've always been super physically active. I spent all my free time outdoors pretty much when I was a kid. And, even if it wasn't endurance sports, I just love being outside and just, moving my body. So I think that's just always been a passion of mine. I think I learned how to ride a bike when I was 3 years old, and I've always loved cycling as well. I've loved biking, mountain biking, road cycling, just all of that stuff. It's always been a part of my life, and it always will be.
That's awesome. Yeah. I think movement is a thing that invigorates the body.
Yeah.
It's not meant to sit still. Even as I'm sitting here, I cannot sit still. I feel like I have to move my legs.
Yeah.
And I think as human beings, we're designed to move, and we're designed to use our body for those types of things. So I think to that point, it's really awesome. You seem like a very goal-driven person, and you have a lot of goals for yourself. But you do it with a exploratory kind of mind, wanting to push the limits, see what's possible. I've heard in a podcast that you did, and then also I think on your Strava, that you have a step goal for the year. Can you tell me a little bit about that and where the background of that came from?
Yeah, so I've been trying to become more and more consistent with my exercise in the past year or so. So at the beginning of this year, I just made a goal to get 10,000 steps a day, which isn't a lot, but I'm trying to do it every single day of the year. So, on days when I like go for a long run, it's like really easy.
Yeah.
Days when I'm like super active, but days when I have to spend more time indoors doing stuff, or days when I go for like a long bike ride, it can be a lot more challenging. Like sometimes I've done a long bike ride of like 100+ miles and still had to get home and go for a run at like 10 or 11 p.m. just to hit my step goal.
Yeah.
So it's been kind of a challenge for me, but I've loved doing it just because like I'm capable of it, but at the same time I'm pushing myself to achieve it.
That's really cool. I think that at face value, it seems like, 10,000 steps, that's nothing. I feel like most people are like, I get that every day. But I think you'd be surprised on how many people don't.
Right.
And like you said, I mean, even though you biked 100+ miles, having to still like have the discipline to go out that evening and go for a run.
Yeah.
What gives you like, obviously it's just you against yourself. It's just your own goal that you set. When you are coming back from a long ride and you feel exhausted because you were just out there for hours, what gives you like, are you just like really, really disciplined, or what is it that gives you that drive?
I mean, I think to me, my like personal goals are like pretty much the most important thing in my life. It's, what drives me. And, I have goals in a lot of different categories, but specifically in my physical goals, I guess those are more like, visible. So that's what I get attention for. But I have, certain goals that are important to me enough that I'm not willing to let anything stand in the way of me achieving them. And I will, I'll do whatever it takes, even if it's not appealing, even if it is really difficult, even if I'm tired or sick, I'll do whatever it takes to reach those goals.
Yeah. Obviously, I think when you're in the spot like you are on social media, you often get deemed as like a one-dimensional kind of person because that's all they see.
Yeah.
It's all that you're putting out there. Aside from Sam, the guy who runs marathons around buildings, what are some other goals that you have? What are other like parts of your life that are really, really important to you?
Yeah, well, I think in the aspect of like physical or like exercise goals, I have a lot more than just running things. Like I have a goal to do a bike ride of at least 200 kilometers every single month of this year. So that's 125 miles. And I've been consistent so far. I did one, at least once every month so far this year. And I'm trying to get at least 500 miles of activities every month. So that includes, biking and running and going on walks and hikes, things like that. I'm just trying to do 500 miles a month. And I have a goal to do a 250-mile bike ride on the 4th of July. So that's coming up in a couple weeks now, and I'm still getting ready for that, but that's a goal I have. So those are just some like current goals I have right now. In the future, I would love to do an Ironman triathlon. I'd love to do ultra marathons. I'm gonna try to do a 50-mile run next month.
Dang.
So I'm just gonna try and just see how it goes, see how far I can get. So those are like, that's obviously a huge part of my life, and I do spend most of my free time exercising and training for, races I have coming up, and now, doing these marathons that I've been doing around the buildings. But I think it reflects in other aspects of my life too, like learning to be consistent in my exercise goals has helped me be consistent, like in my scripture study, in my church attendance, things that I just know that I do it every single time. I never miss a day of scripture study. I never miss a week of church attendance because that's just not who I am, and it's for the same reason that I don't ever miss a day of my step goal, or I never miss a month of doing my 125-mile bike ride, because that's just not who I am. I don't miss those things.
I think that speaks a lot to your character, and obviously being able to do that in a more trivial thing, some might say exercise, will be very reflective to every other aspect of your life, the more important things, your education, your family, your relationship with God. And I think that's It's a very desirable characteristic that a lot of people have, because I think a lot of people will get motivation, and that comes from a place of excitement and kind of a short-term spark, and that can lead to some change, but in my opinion, it doesn't lead to lasting change, because at least the way I view it is discipline is the highest form of being able to change, I guess. Like when you're truly disciplined in something, and you don't just have like a spurt of motivation. It's a lot more sustainable into the kind of life that we want to be living. So I think that's very admirable.
Yeah.
To get back into that very first video that like kind of exploded and blew up.
Yeah.
I think the Marbathon has like around 300,000 views or something.
Yeah,
some crazy number.
Yeah.
I as I was preparing, I scrolled through and watched some of your older videos of you on a unicycle and doing some arguably similarly crazy. I think the craziest one I saw was you going down the RB stairs.
Yeah.
I think that's really crazy to be able to do that on a unicycle. You've been making these videos. Have those mostly just been for friends and family that you've been doing it, or was it always in hopes to kind of, I don't know, potentially blow up on social media?
I always made my videos for fun. I think like I had them public because I think like if somebody's interested in watching it, they should be able to watch it. And so I always had a goal, I guess, of reaching like a target audience, people that would, think what I do is interesting. But that was never like my driving like reason behind doing all of that. I just did it for fun. I just did it for myself. And I mean, the same goes for the marathons too, especially at the beginning. Like I just went and did that for fun. I, had the idea to make a video of it, and I was like, sure, why not? I'm going to do this anyway, but I'll make a video of it just for fun. And that one just happened to, reach a much larger audience for whatever reason. So, that certainly motivated me to, do it more and, run more marathons around the buildings and, be more consistent in doing that. But I think at the same time, like I just saw it as like a fun challenge for myself, and I still see it that way. It's just a fun challenge for myself that I'd like to do.
How do you stay grounded? Obviously, I think for me, whenever a video that I will post kind of does well, I get kind of excited, and then when a video doesn't do quite as well, you're almost desensitized.
Yeah.
To like, oh man, that one did so well, but this one's not doing as good. Like, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
How do you keep that like level head?
I think like in social media, it's really a game of luck a lot of the time. So if if I make a video that doesn't do as well, like I don't really care that much, because I'm not doing it to blow up. I'm not doing it for attention necessarily. It's just more to keep myself accountable. So if I run a marathon and post it and nobody watches it, it's like, well, I still ran a marathon.
Yeah.
It still is great. So I haven't been super like concerned about that, but I do think it's certainly opened doors for me. So I do, I am excited to see my things do well online, because having that sort of attention has brought me to be able to do things that I wouldn't have been able to do otherwise, like, collaborate with different departments and different colleges here at BYU, to be able to, run marathons around their buildings. I've gotten to, meet a lot of professional runners and running influencers through this, and I've gotten sponsorships and brand deals and things like that. And all of that has definitely, it's been like a really big blessing in my life just to have those opportunities, and that's all because my stuff is done well on social media. So whenever my things do well, I'm happy about it, but if not, it's I don't really care that much.
Yeah, I think that you'd be doing this whether people are watching or not. So it's just, I think it speaks to your character again of your, well, who cares?
Yeah, well, and I think social media too is a lot about consistency. So, if you just keep being consistent, keep posting, keep, working hard on what you're trying to get done, you'll find success no matter what. And so, I'm just getting started, really. Like I just started doing this stuff, consistently like a month and a half ago, probably. So even if my stuff doesn't do well right now, if I just keep going with it, just like with my scripture study, church attendance, with my, running and with my cycling and all of my goals that I have, if I just keep being consistent with it, I'm going to see the growth, and I'm totally confident in that.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to live your life, is not
Mhm.
be too worried about where your success comes from, but just being okay with, I'm going to be consistent. If people care to appreciate me or show me the
Mhm.
love, or if I get the blessings from God, or if I get the good grades, or if I get whatever, it doesn't matter, because I'm just doing this because I want to show up for myself and for God and
Right.
for the people that matter to me. To that point, when you first did this, tell me about like the reaction of your close family and friends.
Yeah. I get asked about this a lot, and it's kind of funny because I didn't really like tell many people about this idea before I actually just went and did it. Um, just because like I didn't think that much of it. I was like, oh, like this is gonna be a fun challenge. Like it'll be, it'll be challenging for me. I'll be pushing myself, but like I know I could do it. And I went out and did it, and I like made the video, and I like showed my family and showed my friends, and they're like, wow, like that's pretty cool that you did that. But then it was only when it started like blowing up and started getting a lot of attention when they're like, wow, this is crazy. Like, why does everyone care so much about this? And I think it's funny because the people who like know me closely um know that I always do stuff like this. Like, so I think they weren't super surprised that I was capable of doing that and willing to go out and get it done. Um, so when I started getting all the attention for it, some of my like friends and family were kind of taken aback, and they're like, "Wow, that's crazy." Because I don't know, I guess they're just used to me doing stuff like this. That not everybody is used to that.
Yeah, I think that's funny. I mean, obviously, I learned about your story from the video, the very
Yeah.
first one. I think a friend sent it to me or something,
Uh,
and I was just like, "Oh, that's crazy." But to hear that reaction of your family, be like, "Oh, that's cool," like, "Oh well," like, cool, and then for them to be surprised when it's doing well, I think it's kind of funny. Just that, like, I don't know, it's something that you do. It's not like you're performing just for the camera or anything.
yeah.
I think the consistency, honestly, is the thing that has been like the most impressive, because to the average person, running a marathon's a lifetime, like, huge feat to accomplish. But the fact that someone can just go do it so consistently is incredible. Of all the 7 marathons that you've done, I think the Marb, the Library, the Wilk, what is it? The
The
Kimball,
Kimmel Tower,
Bucked Up,
the JKB,
yeah, the JKB, and then the
and then the
LSB.
LSB.
This might be a dumb question, but which one was the hardest?
I think like physically, like the LSB was definitely the most challenging just because of the elevation gain on it. Um, but it was not nearly as hard as I expected, actually. And I think that's because of just all the support that I had. Um, there were just so many people there, like supporting and watching, and there was almost always somebody else running with us like the whole time.
Hmm.
So that made it go by so much faster, and that made it so much more enjoyable while I was doing it, to the point where when we finished, I was like, "Oh, was that all?" Like that wasn't as bad as I thought. Whereas, I'm sure if I had been doing that all by myself with nobody there, like it would have been much more difficult, without all the support. And I think that um that's been like, if I think back at like the hardest moments of like while I've been running the marathons, it's definitely been that. It's like when I'm getting close to the end, but there's like nobody there, and it's just me, or it's like just me and my friend, and we're just like so tired we can't even talk, and we're just trying to push through it. Like that's like always the hardest moment, when you have only like 5 miles left and you're like, wow, this really sucks, and I wish I could be done already and not be doing this still.
Yeah. Yeah. What does it mean, I guess, to have those people come out and like support you in such a big way?
It's like, it's really crazy to me to see like I guess like a manifestation of my own influence, if that makes sense. Like, um getting like likes and views and attention on social media is one thing, but when you actually like see those people in real life coming out to support and, coming out to support me in something that I don't really see as a big deal, but they do, that's like really crazy to me. And I've been like really inspired by a lot of the people that have come out and run with me. Like it's hard sometimes, but I've tried to like get to know everybody that has come and run with me, at least like ask their name, ask, if they have done a lot of running in their life or not. And like some of the people I've met, like they like they're not runners at all, but they still will come and they'll run with me and they'll do the best they can. They'll, run for as long as they can and they'll, push themselves out of their comfort zone. And I think that's like so awesome. That's like my favorite thing ever to see is to see other people growing and improving because of my example. And like, I know I'm not a perfect example of that. And really, like, I don't really see this as a big deal, but the fact that I'm able to motivate people or inspire other people, even if it's like unintentional, I think is like a huge blessing in my life.
Yeah. I think that is so cool. I think being at that event at the LSB, I was there like for an hour in the beginning, like the last 45-ish minutes. It was really cool because some people that I knew that I didn't know that were going to be there, like I kind of knew them, were there. And I'm like, to my knowledge, you don't run.
Yeah.
Like ever. But you're out here. And so I think it's a really cool influence that you are having. I think there's a lot of people that have a lot of influence out there on the internet. And to be able to have the influence to encourage people to go and push their body to a limit that they didn't know was possible, I think is really cool platform to have.
There's a ultra marathon runner that I follow online named Andy Glaze, and he runs like super long races, like 200 plus mile, trail runs that last for like 4 or 5 days. And it's super crazy. I love watching his stuff, but, I once heard a quote from him where he went on a podcast and he said like, people often tell me that I inspire them and I say, that's great, but now you need to go inspire someone else. And like, that really hit me hard because like, I'm not doing this to inspire other people. I'm doing this for myself. But, I've been blessed to be able to inspire other people because of it. And I think that just is like a chain reaction. Because I think about all the people that inspired me, all the people that got me to where I am today. There's, definitely a lot of people in my life that if they hadn't been there, if they hadn't influenced me, I wouldn't be doing this at all. And they inspired me. And now because of that, I've been blessed to be able to go inspire other people. And hopefully some of the people that I've inspired will continue that chain on.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I think the platform that you have to inspire, not unintentionally, kind of as a byproduct of you pursuing things you love,
right?
I think is such a beautiful way to look at it. And I do agree that I think when you are inspired, you have the responsibility to inspire someone else. So I think that's a great, I've never heard that quote, but I really, really like it. I'll have to go look that up and listen to it. Aside from like running and endurance sports, you served a mission. Your mom, when I was talking to your mom, she said you served your mission on the border of Mexico and Guatemala on the Mexican side. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you were there, I think, during when the border was still kind of open, coming from the south.
Yeah, I was there in 2023 and 2024. So I was there when there were still like tons of migrant trains going through that area.
And she told me this story about this man, and I'm sure you remember the story because it seemed pretty impactful even to your mom, about this guy who showed up in the chapel one day. And this is like a big pivot from what we've been talking about, but he showed up in the chapel one day, and it wasn't uncommon for them for in that area to be like drug addicts and people that are kind of a little bit off the rocker. But then you realize that he was wearing special, I guess, worship clothing, and that he was a member of the church and that he was crying. Can you tell me a little bit about that experience, and then how it affected you and how it's changed you?
Yeah. So I was probably around 18 months into my mission at that point. So, I had been around and I had, seen a lot of things, and I got assigned to serve in a city called Tapachula, which is like the southernmost city in Mexico. It's right at the very, very southern point, right on the border with Guatemala. So because of that, there were tons of migrants from South America, Central America, and even Asia and Europe. People from all over the world would travel through there on foot, trying to make it to the United States. So that made the missionary work kind of difficult because there were so many people that would be there just for a very short amount of time, and then they would continue on and be gone. So would um we would try to help and support these people and love them, but it was just so hard with them coming and going so much. And there were lots of problems with crime and violence and drug trafficking, human trafficking. So we had to be cautious as well of that. So usually when, a random person would walk into the church, we would be wary of it, especially because there were many people who would come to us just asking for money. They would see a church and they would come in and say, "You guys are a church. You can help me. You can give me money so I can continue." And because of the rules we had, we weren't actually allowed to, give those people money to be able to continue on their journey. So we almost always just had to turn them away. So yeah, that day I think we were in the church setting up for something. It was just my companion and I, and we were just there alone. And then this guy walked in, and we could tell he was a migrant because of the way he was dressed, and just he obviously wasn't from Mexico. He was from Venezuela, and I don't even remember his name anymore. Maybe I could go back and find it in my journal, but I will always remember the look on his face when he came and he sat down in a chair right next to us and he just started crying. And we looked at him and we're like, "Is everything all right? Like, what's wrong?" And then he said, "I haven't seen a Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in 3 weeks since I left my home on foot." And he says, "You have no idea what it means to me to be back in this place." And that was like a really inspiring experience for me because I've never been in that situation before where I was, unable to attend church and unable to, have that support from my local congregation. I've always lived in a place where I can go to church every week and where I can attend my church activities and have that support. And to see the reaction of somebody who's like so faithful and so dependent like on the Lord, to see that see his reaction to be back in one of the Lord's houses of worship was really eye-opening to me, and it made me feel a lot more grateful for um just the opportunity that I have to be able to attend church every week. And it was interesting because we sat down and talked to him, and instead of him asking us for money like the migrants usually did, he asked us how he could find a place to live there so he could support us. And I mean, this guy, like, he hadn't showered in like 3 weeks. He hadn't, had a roof over his head in like 3 weeks. He was probably starving. He was probably dehydrated. And the first thing he did was come and ask us what he could do to help. He asked us to help him so he could help us. And so we contacted our bishop and we helped him find a temporary place to live in our ward. And he was only there for a couple weeks, but he came to church and he just brought an energy that none of the like members there had seen, in so long. And he said, he got up at fast and testimony meeting and he bore his testimony of temple attendance. And we lived about 8 hours away from the temple at that time, and it was hard for the members to go to the temple because of the cost and because of the travel time. And he got up and he said that there was nothing more important to him than attending the temple. And he said that, he hadn't been able to attend the temple because of his travels, but the whole reason that he was doing this was so he could support his family and he could help them get out of the situation that they were in so they could be closer to a temple. And when we went to the second hour meeting, we were talking about arranging a ward temple trip, and, renting a bus and having everyone in the ward go up to the bigger city where the temple was. And it was really hard. Just the arrangements weren't really working out. People were saying the cost was too much and it just looked like it wasn't going to happen. And he got up and he said, guys, we have to do everything that we can to make this happen. There's nothing more important than this. And I think that was really eye-opening for a lot of people there to see somebody that had so much less than even they did, be willing to like sacrifice everything just to be able to go to the temple. And so even if maybe it didn't have the biggest impact right there, like it definitely had an impact on me and, on my family members who I shared that story with. And that's something that I'll always remember from my mission.
That's an incredible story and truly, truly life-changing, it sounds like. And even just from what you've just shared, I feel very inspired and very humbled by the example of this man that I've never met. But I think that's a truly beautiful experience, a very sacred experience to be able to have. Yeah. How has your relationship with God worked into your pursuit of these endurance goals and also just in your life in general?
I think like that's a really interesting question. So when I returned from my mission, it was about a year and a half ago. And just like all returning missionaries, I, set all my goals and we have like a workbook that we had to go through and write goals for different, sections of our lives. And I set some, pretty big goals, like goals that I knew I would have to push myself to achieve. But I also set some goals that would be possible, I thought, for myself, but I would also be relying on other people to make sure they would happen. Such as goals for like employment and goals for, my social life, things like that. So when I got back from my mission, I started working really hard on these goals. One of my goals was actually to run my first marathon. I hadn't run a marathon before my mission. So, the week I got back, I started training and I started, working towards that goal along with all my other goals. But after only a couple months, it felt like everything had just fallen apart. Like I had a goal to get a job and I applied to so many jobs and I just never was able to get one for the first few months after I got back from my mission. And, I had a goal to run a marathon and I ended up getting an ankle injury and I was unable to run for about 2 months and I actually had to, not do the marathon that I had signed up for. And, there were lots of things like that happened in my life that felt super frustrating. And, I still don't understand exactly why that happened to me, but I know that it put me on a path to be where I am now. And I'm sure that I wouldn't be where I am now and doing the things that I'm doing now if not for that having happened. I think one thing that happened to me is that God steered me in the direction of doing more physical activity and more exercise because I felt that those were some of my only goals that were only dependent on me. That those and like my spiritual goals. So when I was struggling really, really badly in, some of my goals that depended on other people, I turned more towards my goals that depended only on myself. And I turned more towards, pushing myself and disciplining myself in those goals. So I know that I ended up doing a lot more running and a lot more cycling, a lot more exercise um just because of the way that, God steered me. And it wasn't the way that I expected to go. But um and I didn't really understand why that was happening. And now I'm kind of seeing like maybe this social media stuff is part of that. But even then, I don't know what direction this is going to go. All I know is that I'm going to do my best to continue pursuing my goals. And I know that God is going to bless me to be able to achieve great things, even if I'm not 100% sure what those great things are. So I see that, I guess, as like a testament that God is working in my life and that he's aware of me and that he has a plan for me in a direction that he wants me to go. And it's never something that I expect. Like, I never would have seen this coming, with all the marathons and stuff. I never could have guessed that this would happen like 2 months ago. If you had told me this, I would have been in disbelief. But seeing things like this and other things that have happened in my life has made me realize that I don't know what's going to happen, but whatever happens, as long as I try my best, I know I can trust in the Lord to make things work out in the end.
Yeah. I think that's such a beautiful sentiment to share. It reminds me of a quote that is by Steve Jobs. He says, "You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future." And at the stage of life that at least you and I are both at, that I've heard it be called the decade of decision, where we are kind of deciding what the rest of our life is going to look like. And so many people, a lot of my friends and people that I know have made huge plans and endeavors. And I think it's good to make these goals. But like you said, a lot of the goals that we set are very dependent on other people and other people's decisions. And those will affect us and our effectiveness in achieving the goals that we set out to. And I think it's a beautiful freedom to have, at least to say, okay, I don't understand how all the dots will connect.
Yeah.
But I have the trust in God that the dots will connect and that they will come together in the end and that it will all end up all right. I think it takes a lot of faith, a lot of trust to be okay with that. And that's something that I've been working on a lot recently, is being okay, like, hey, the dots will connect eventually. I just need to keep going forward.
Yeah.
Kind of as we wrap up, the last little bit, I have a couple more questions for you, but I guess one of my questions is, you are from our conversations and just, I guess, as we've been talking, it's very apparent that you are a person that is willing to pursue their dreams and things that they dream up of and just want to try. What do you think drives you towards pursuing your dreams? Because a lot of people will have a dream and not pursue it.
Yeah. I've been thinking about this a lot recently, just because of things that have been happening in my life. And I think one thing that's helped me is that I've been blessed to be able to see my own personal growth and personal improvement. I've never doubted my own capabilities, as far as running and cycling and all my physical goals. I've never doubted my potential to train and to achieve things that I didn't used to be capable of. And because I've been able to see that in my life so much, now it's like second nature. I don't have to ever doubt if I'll be able to become more fit or become faster or be able to endure more. Because I have seen the pattern in the past in my life of, the more time I spend on it, the more consistent I am, the better I get at it. So I think I've been super blessed to have started doing that at a young age and be able to be inspired by other people's examples at a young age, to the point where I learned for myself what I am capable of doing. And I recognize that a lot of people haven't had that blessing. So it's hard for me to comprehend how difficult it must be for example, somebody who goes through like a weight loss journey, completely changing your lifestyle to something that's totally different, totally uncomfortable, that is like incomprehensible to me because I've never had to be in that position. I've never lived through that experience. And so I'm really inspired by, people who are able to take their life and just completely turn it around like that. So yeah, I'm very grateful and I'm very blessed to have been um doing this pretty much my whole life because that makes it so it's not as hard for me mentally. I know that, maybe physically in the moment it's difficult, but I'm used to it. I've done it so much and I think I've done it for so long that um it's not as hard for me as it might be for other people. So I think I sometimes struggled. I don't say that to be like pretentious. I think I just struggle to like identify with people who haven't lived the same experience as me. And I struggle to give advice to people maybe because I think
Yeah.
sometimes people look to me for advice on like how to run, how to exercise consistently. And I just say, I don't know. I just do it, you know? So I think, change doesn't come in your life unless you put yourself out of your comfort zone. And that applies to every aspect of your life. You won't have any personal growth. You won't have any positive growth if you're not willing to push yourself and put yourself out of your comfort zone. And you don't have to do a huge jump all at once. And I think that's the big thing. I built up to where I am right now. I spent years and years and, decades of my life just being active and exercising to the point where I didn't see it as a huge jump to start running a marathon or two every week. Whereas, somebody who's not a runner sees that as totally ridiculous. But with consistency and with time, you expand your comfort zone little by little. You keep pushing your limits. You can achieve anything. Your body and your mind are capable of almost anything. And where I am right now, I can run a marathon just fine, but I'm not satisfied with that. I want to take it so much further. I want to do ultra marathons. I want to do, you know, endurance challenges that last multiple days. That's like my dream. That's what I want to achieve. I see the people that go run 100-mile runs and 200-mile runs and 300-mile runs, and I want to be part of that. And I have no doubt that I'm capable of building up to that point. I have no doubt that it's going to be difficult and take years of consistency and hard work and years of, pushing myself and leaving my comfort zone. But I know that I'm capable of that because I've already built up to where I am. So I think it's kind of like a snowball effect. Like once you get started on it, once you uh, see what you are capable of, you like unlock it in your mind. You don't have the mental block that says, I can't do this. Instead, you have the mindset of maybe I can't do this right now, but I'm capable of getting to that point and I'm going to do it because I want to. So I think that's my mindset behind what I do, really.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think to what you said, if you're familiar with the way friction works, there's like when something's at rest, there's a point and it's a lot higher than what it takes to keep something going. But there's a point where you have to get to a certain amount of force to push an object.
Yeah.
Well, once an object is in motion, it will stay in motion.
Yeah.
Unless acted upon, it's like Newton's second law or something. But to that point, the graph where there's a peak and then it comes down, and the force that it takes to continue on is a lot less,
Right.
almost half. And I think a lot of people are afraid of making that big first push to start and try something, because once they try and they start, like you said, the consistency of showing up becomes a lot easier because you've started. And I guess my last question for you is what's next? What's next in your journey of, and you've outlined a couple things, your 250-mile bike ride, you outlined your future goals of wanting to do ultra marathons of 200-mile plus. But in the near future, in the next couple months, as far as publicity goes, what's next for you?
Yeah, I'm gonna just keep running marathons here on campus. I think I'm gonna do one tomorrow actually.
Sweet.
And then I have a couple lined up next week already too, which they're gonna be really fun.
Awesome.
So you'll see those when they come up, I guess, but it's gonna be really fun. And yeah, I have no plans to stop doing this. I'm gonna try to stay consistent in my cycling. Outside of running, I think it helps me um recover from my long runs. It helps me, stretch my legs out and prevent injuries. And I'm also training for some cycling races in the fall. So, yeah, I'm just gonna continue where I am. I'm just gonna keep building on my endurance and uh hopefully do an Ironman this year. Hopefully do this 50-mile run next month. I'll just see how I'm doing physically and how much time I have. Basically, that's my main limiter at this point, is just the amount of time I have to spend on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have no intention of ever stopping this. I think I've found a lot of joy in creating content for social media recently, and I don't pretend to be like really good at it, but I think it's enjoyable. So I hope to continue on with that, even if it's not running marathons around the buildings, obviously. But I think the fact that I am capable of coming up with ideas like this that people find interesting shows that I'll be able to do it in the future, even if it's not, the exact same thing. Like, I always am coming up with ideas and challenges that I think would be fun to make content out of. So, yeah, I have no intention of ever stopping.
That's awesome. Well, where can people find you on social media so they can follow and support your journey?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram and TikTok. The handle is uni.byu. It's supposed to. So I made that handle because it's like unicycle.
Yeah.
Like in the unicycle like community, we call it uni. So
Yeah.
I was like uni BYU.
Yeah.
But then people think it's like the university, like I'm like impersonating Brigham Young University or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the story behind
Awesome.
it. But
Well, I hope everyone can go and support, and maybe someday we'll see you around a marathon around, I don't know, Empire State Building,
yeah,
Eiffel Tower. Who knows
around the
where
White
this
House.
goes? We'll see where this goes. But I am one who will continue to support, and so it's been fun to follow your journey. And I'm sure everyone else that is listening will enjoy following your journey. Sam, thank you so much for coming on today.
Yeah, thank
I
you.
really appreciated talking with you, and I know that the listeners will get a lot of value out of the things you've shared today. So thank you, everyone. This has been episode 7 of the Passion Lab, and we'll see you next week.